Chapter 11. So the question returns that so distressed the apostle, has God cast away his people? That cannot be, is the answer, for I am an Israelite of Abraham's seed of the tribe of Benjamin. How is that an answer? A poor one indeed if Paul thought, as many interpreters do, that his salvation was exceptional, a blessing on the individual Saul because it pleased God's sovereignty to spare him from the doom the race, by the same sovereignty, was consigned to. Taking people in the ordinary sense, Paul could not represent the people, and his preservation would prove nothing about God's faithfulness to them. But if Israel was called out to represent the true state of man, to declare man's relation to God as spiritual and not carnal, then anyone who stood on that spiritual relation repudiated the carnal ground of confidence and preached to Gentiles as well as Jews that they are spiritually related to God. Such a person is not a fragment rescued from a rejected race. He embodies the very principle and purpose of the race. Though he were alone, the nation would survive in him. But Paul has no proud thought of being alone. He recalls Elijah, who thought himself the last worshipper of God while all bowed to the Baal of Phoenicia, and was told there were 7,000 in Ahab's land where there was no temple worship, still trusting the Lord God of their fathers. Even so, he says, there is a remnant according to the election of grace, a remnant in Isaiah's and the prophet's sense, not the modern predestinarians, a remnant witnessing that the root of the nation has not perished, that the substance of the oak remains though branches are gone, not one proving that most branches were lopped off and a few kept by arbitrary decree. Paul presses his old doctrine. How was this remnant kept? By the grace of God, from whom all good in his creatures comes, not by any works of theirs. He need not restate this against the unbelieving Jew already confuted. It had been shown he could claim election or superiority only by God's calling, and that when he boasted himself better than the Gentile, he chose a test that must condemn him. But it was very necessary for the church, the Gentile part as well as the Jewish, that this be driven home. Surely the same lying thought would arise in the church, in ourselves by our acts or covenant we are better than others and bear worse fruit than before. So Paul lays the axe to the root. He shows the Gentiles the meaning, cause, and conditions of the Jewish rejection, that they may see the same could befall them. How stands the case? Israel after the flesh, standing on fleshly privileges, sought something and did not find it, but the election, standing on spiritual ground, obtained what they sought. The rest were hardened, those to whom Isaiah's words apply. God gave them a spirit of slumber, eyes that do not see, ears that do not hear. A fearful sentence, the most fearful that can befall a man or nation, but one that shows there is something to see and hear. They are in the light, or their blindness would mean nothing. A voice speaks to them, or you could not call them deaf. Every charge against the Jews assumes ignorance of a state that was really theirs, ignorance brought on by willful struggle against a divine teacher seeking to make them know themselves and him. Every dreadful curse, like the one Paul quotes from the 109th Psalm, falls on a race of proud, self-righteous, self-seeking men who have grown brutal and cruel because they broke loose from a merciful ruler, and must learn what it is to be left prowling in the darkness they chose. They have stumbled, Paul continues. But is it so that they should fall? He boldly answers, by no means. Then he argues from the truth he has asserted so often. Neither Jews nor Gentiles were holy in themselves, but only because the root is holy. The Jew cannot boast against the Gentile, still less the Gentile against the Jew. Each lives only while it abides by faith in the root, and each not abiding may be cut off. On the other hand, the root has a life and sap that can restore what is decayed. Israel, not abiding in the root, claiming independent virtue, was cut off. The same cause will produce the same effect in any nation. But let the Gentiles receive this mystery, however hard. Blindness has come to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has entered in, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come a deliverer out of Zion, and shall turn away iniquities from Jacob. Mercy to the Gentiles thus becomes the final cause of the Jewish fall, so that the same mercy may reach the Gentiles too, for God has shut them all up in unbelief, that he may have mercy on all. I can give no interpretation of these words, I leave them to interpret themselves to the reader. Paul did not claim to understand them himself, but he knew they were true and could realize their truth when he cried, "Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of God." He did not try to sound a love he found unfathomable, he was content to be lost in it.